Alright, Shalom. This one will say Kalam Layal Bashima Shah Bashima Kakodash. And double honesty of the apostles of great millstone who do rule and teach well. Tasapanya, check it out with another video. Gonna pretty much get into this news article, just read it a couple minutes ago. Looking through the news and things like that. Tankers, talks, and Trump's dangerous blockade. China's Iran war involvement gets louder. So, this was uploaded today, the 14th, 2:07 p.m. Alright, so Beijing, China's been a quiet, crucial player in the Iran war. As U.S. military action upends the global economy. That change Tuesday's Beijing assailed the American blockade of Iranian ports as dangerous and irresponsible, while leader Xi Jinping warned against the return to the law of the jungle. Yeah, which, he's speaking out against it. Alright, so, and you got, the whole world speaking against this place, man. You got America's allies speaking against it. You got now Moab hopping and speaking against it. Right? Of course, Russia does too. Alright, so, things aren't looking good for this place. Alright. This public intervention was most significant today as China, which has close ties with Iran, faces growing pressure to use influence to bring an end to the war. Some of that pressure is coming from the U.S.'s military blockade, which is Oman, the world's largest importer of crude oil. More than half of China's energy comes through the Strait of Hormuz, which normally carries 1/5 of the world's oil and gas supplies. Says actions will only intensify contradictions, exacerbate tensions, and undermine the already fragile ceasefire and further jeopardize the security navigation to the strait. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhuo Jiaokun told reporters Tuesday the U.S. blockade is a dangerous and irresponsible behavior. Alright, so, you don't really gotta read the rest of this, but we'll get some get some precepts, and then let that be that. Alright. We'll just go through here. Alright, Joel 31, well in those days and in that time when I should bring again the captivity Judah and Jerusalem, which happened already through slavery. Alright, Judah, Benjamin, Levi. Alright, and of course the northern kingdom, was taken down, prior to that, to like Christopher Columbus, Island Hispaniola, different conquistadors. Can't remember that name, Pizarro, I think was one of his names. Pretty much took down the Mayan and Aztecs, so on and so forth. Also gather all nations and bring them into the valley of Jehoshaphat. I will plead with them there for my people, for my is Israel. Let them scatter among the nations and pardon my land. Alright, so, the Lord's going to gather all these nations into that area. Alright, in that area, Jehoshaphat, which means Yahweh. Let's see. Alright. Yahweh's judgment, pretty much, the Middle East, man. So the area is Jehoshaphat, and it's the Middle East, and that's just going to be the place where Lord's going to gather all these nations to battle, in World War III, right? Because everything is pointing to the Middle East, and just this article is another example, right? Growing tensions, right, that are happening. Of course, I'm not saying that, World War III is going to come next week or tomorrow, or that Jacob's trouble isn't going to happen and that we're just going to have World War III because it's going off. Right? There's going to be Jacob's trouble, martial law, MOTB pushed out, made mandatory. Right? That has to come. That's a part of It's a part of prophecy, and it has to happen, and it will happen, right? Because thus saith the Lord, right? Because lots of my people get away from Ireland, so they go for wine they might drink, they're selling our people, you know what I mean? People being sold, for different trinkets. Alright, we can go ahead and get another one. This book of Jeremiah, chapter 50. Let me see here. Let's talk about Russia. Alright. Because you were glad, ye destroyers, or ye destroyers of my heritage, because you green fat as heifers at grass and bellow as bulls. And bellowing means to neigh, to shout, to rejoice, to make shining. Right? Yeah, that's what they did. Destroyers of mine heritage was the Lord's heritage. You so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans. They rejoiced over the destruction of our people. Over our people getting locked up in these prison houses, our people, just in the lowest state, high off these different drugs, for people killing each other in the street, they getting locked up, you know what I mean? Like all that stuff, man. They take, they're happy about it, right? Slavery, right? They were happy about it. They were happy to have our people at the bottom, working all these hours, no food, or they're giving them food, but they're getting the scraps, like the turkey neck and things like that, and then Jake, took all that stuff and then put it together to make a meal, and now Jake just, just eat it just to eat it, but a lot of those foods that Jake, like to be eating, they come back from slavery, right? Like using the turkey neck and collard greens, right? That all goes back to, slavery, right? But just to finish up, your mother shall be sore confounded, she that bare you shall be ashamed. Both animals of the nation shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Right? Yeah. Who's America's mother? America's mother is talking about Great Britain. I'm not gonna get into it, but it speaks of America. It's coming out of the seven. Right? One of the seven horns. Right? Roughly paraphrasing. I think it's in Daniel 7, but it goes into it. Right? And the horn that America comes from is Great Britain, which is where they came from. And then they settled, over here, and in time, they broke away from Britain with the American Revolutionary War, which, I believe they say, the revolutionaries, American revolutionaries they were funded, they were bankrolled, and that guy goes back to the Rothschild, and I believe that, that they were funded by a guy, and this guy, can't remember his name, but they're funded by a Rothschild agent, pretty much, to fight against Britain, right? And they also say that about the Civil War as well, that you have all kinds of Rothschild involvement on both sides, right? And that's what happens. All wars are bankers' wars. Right, but to get back into this, America's mother, Great Britain, is gonna be so confounded, right, and ashamed, right, because this nation, America, that came out of Great Britain is gonna be completely destroyed, right? All these nations are gonna mourn, right, when they see this place go down, because they're gonna be like, man, I can't do business here no more. How am I supposed to make all this money? Alright, so on and so forth. It goes into that Revelation 18. Alright, and the last part, dry land in the desert, because it's never going to be inhabited. Alright, yeah, no one's going to live here once it's hit by these nukes, or introduced to the desert. Alright, so yeah, I'm gonna just let that be that. Yeah, it's Jeremiah 50. You know, went to some other things, some news, some precepts. You know, just let that be that. Lord, if I didn't say show.